I have not seen that woman in 16 years. Not since the night she shoved me out of her silver Lexus at the Greyhound station with nothing but a black trash bag of clothes that smelled like mildew and broken dreams. Yet today an invitation to her retirement gala arrived in my mailbox like a bad joke wrapped in cream cardstock. I'm not here for forgiveness or closure. I am here to read the letter she buried. The one that will make every fake smile in that ballroom freeze when they realize the woman they are honoring as the queen of Whispering Pines HOA is about to be retired permanently by the truth. My name is Avery Lewis. I have been sitting in the driver's seat of my sensible mid-range sedan for 20 minutes. Engine off, hood ticking like a countdown. Through the windshield, the entrance to the Whispering Pines Country Club glows like a beacon of upper-middle-class smugness. Stone pillars, timber beams, the whole "we earned this" aesthetic designed to make outsiders feel small. A massive banner flaps in the Pennsylvania breeze. Happy retirement. Karen Whitaker, 40 years of dedicated HOA leadership. The gold cursive looks expensive. The kind of font that screams, "I fine people for grass longer than 2 inches." On the passenger seat rests a thick, yellowed envelope. Not the pristine invitation that smelled of lavender and old money. This one is brittle, edges curled like dying leaves. Red wax seal cracked down the middle. The handwriting on the front is faint blue ink, but my body recognizes it before my brain does. If you're reading this, it means she hid it from everyone. 16 years. That is how long it has been since Karen Whitaker, president of the Whispering Pines, HOA enforcer of every ridiculous covenant known to suburban man, drove me to that bus station in the pouring rain. I can still smell the diesel mixed with ozone. I can still feel the plastic bag cutting into my palm. 3 pairs of jeans, 5 shirts, a toothbrush, knockoff sneakers. My entire life reduced to refuse because, according to her, I had humiliated the community with my teenage petition against the 6-foot fence rule. She never got out of the car. She just unlocked the door and said in that sugar-coated voice she uses at board meetings, "You have embarrassed this HOA one too many times. Avery, good luck out there." Then her taillights disappeared into the mist like 2 red eyes blinking shut. I was 18, $70 in my pocket. No idea why I was really being exiled. I thought it was just me being difficult. I thought the endless fines for my mother's slightly overgrown rose bushes or my bike left on the driveway were because I was the problem. For 16 years, I watered that shame until it grew into a thick thorny hedge that kept everyone out. I waited tables in 24-hour diners where the coffee tasted like burnt rubber. I took night classes while my eyes burnt. I clawed my way into compliance work, hunting the lies other people try to hide. Fraud, deceit, little discrepancies that topple empires. I became an expert because I was raised by the best liar in the neighborhood. Then the invitation arrived. Heavy cream stock, embossed lettering. Scented with the same lavender Karen always sprayed at HOA meetings to keep things civilized. Attached was a smaller note, loopy and delicate, the handwriting I had traced in old photo albums. "You should come. There is something that belongs to you." The handwriting belonged to my mother, Evelyn, dead for 30 years. Ghosts do not mail invitations. Unless the note was written decades ago and someone had waited until this exact moment, Karen's retirement gala, to slip it inside. My investigator brain kicked in. I traced the postage. It came from Ketter Finch Associates, the firm that handled every HOA contract, every lien, every escrow account in Whispering Pines. Miles Ketter, the family lawyer who had watched Karen rise to power after my mother's heart attack. I did not burn the invitation. I packed a bag, grabbed the black dress I wear to funerals, and drove back to the place that once called itself home. The office of Ketter Finch smelled of lemon polish and decades of secrets. Miles was waiting behind a desk too big for his shrunken frame. He did not stand. He just gestured to the chair and said, "You have your mother's eyes." I sat, back straight. "I received the invitation. And the note. You sent it." He nodded, rattling cough. He pulled a dusty banker's box from under the desk and set it between us with a heavy thud. "Your mother came to me 3 weeks before she died. She was terrified. She gave me this box and made me swear, only hand it to you once Karen left her position. As long as Karen controlled the board, you were not safe." I opened the lid. The smell of old paper hit me. Inside, photocopies of HOA reserve fund ledgers going back 30 years. Columns of dues, fines, special assessments. But in the margins, frantic red circles, question marks next to routing numbers that led nowhere. Then the bank statements. Sovereign Keystone Bank. Account holder, Avery Elizabeth Lewis. Opened the week after my 18th birthday. Opening balance, $50,000. I stared at Miles. I was sleeping in a garage apartment that smelled of gasoline, eating expired bread. And you're telling me I had 50 grand in an account I never touched? He corrected gently. The account was in your name, but the signatory was diverted. Karen used your social security number to park the money before moving it offshore. She needed a clean adult identity that would never check its own credit report because she made sure you were too busy surviving to look. The horror was cold and clarifying. Karen had not exiled me because of a fence petition. She needed me gone so I could never question the ghost accounts she opened in my name. She weaponized my poverty to protect her theft. Miles slid a small silver key across the desk. Your mother suspected something. She wrote a letter. She also rented a safety deposit box at First National and paid 50 years in advance. This key opens box 402. She said once Karen retired, you could strike. I took the key. It felt like a loaded gun. I left the office and walked straight to the bank. The vault was silent steel. Box 402 slid out with a heavy click. Inside, a manila envelope sealed with brittle tape and a chunky early 2000s USB drive. A note taped to the envelope in my mother's handwriting. Do not read this alone. I ignored it. I had been alone for 16 years. The manila envelope contained a single sheet covered in shaky blue ink. My dearest Avery, if you're reading this, they have told you I died of a heart attack. That is the first lie. The room spun. I kept reading. I found the pills in Karen's desk. She has been crushing them in my tea at every HOA meeting. I am writing this while she is at the board session because my hands are finally steady enough. She did not just steal. She murdered. Slowly, methodically, because my mother had started asking questions about the missing reserve funds. The USB drive, added later by my grandmother Ruth before dementia took her, contained scanned ledgers, email archives, and spreadsheets. Shell companies, Whispering Pines Landscaping Services, Keystone Property Management, Pinnacle Compliance Consultants. None existed. All paid by HOA checks signed with my social security number. Microstructure transfers under $10,000 to avoid flags. Over 20 years, it added up to millions. I drove straight to Marcus Chin's apartment, the only person I trusted with data. He isolated the drive and opened the files. These aren't just embezzlement, he said, fingers flying. This is federal wire fraud. The HOA is a nonprofit. Cross-state transfers. FBI territory. I contacted Agent Dana Harlow through the whistleblower channel. 30 minutes later, she called. This is solid. We've been watching the Whispering Pines Fund for 6 months. We need her, to feel safe. We need her to sign the final lump sum withdrawal at the gala tonight. If you can rattle her on stage, get her to admit intent. We have probable cause to move. I agreed, but I wanted more than an arrest. I wanted her reputation dead before the handcuffs clicked. I spent the afternoon in a cheap hotel room printing 3 identical sets of evidence. One for the FBI, one mailed to a journalist as insurance, one sleek black portfolio for the party itself, the deathbed letter, the forged beneficiary forms, the spreadsheet of shell companies. Then I rehearsed. I read my mother's letter aloud until the words stopped cutting and became weapons. I practiced the flat, professional tone I use when I close corporate fraud cases. No tears. Tears are for victims. Tonight, I was the consequence. Elena from my waitressing days still ran the staffing agency for Whispering Pines events. I need to work the Whitaker retirement gala, I told her. General service. Tray passing. Just get me inside. She didn't ask questions. Uniform is black slacks. White shirt. Black vest. Be there by 5. And Avery, be careful. That woman eats her own. I smiled into the phone. I'm counting on it. I checked in with Harlow. I'm in as catering staff. Target will think I'm harmless. Do not breach until I take the microphone or she tries to run. Harlow replied. Team staging 2 miles out. Visual signal is you with a mic. We have eyes on every exit. Everything was ready. The machine was oiled. I ordered room service I barely touched and tried to sleep, but my mind replayed the rain, the taillights, the way Karen had smiled when she said, "The community will be better without you." At 5 p.m., I walked into the service entrance wearing the uniform. The kitchen buzzed with caterers. No one looked twice at me. To them, I was just staff. I moved through the ballroom, setting tables, listening to the guests. Karen is a saint, a woman dripping in diamonds said at table 4. When my husband died, the paperwork for the special assessment was a nightmare. Karen personally waived the late fee and walked it through. Another man nodded. She kept this place pristine. No weeds, no flags, no noise. The last of the old guard. The HOA will fall apart without her. Every compliment was a lash. Pristine. Saint. Old guard. They were praising a woman who had murdered her best friend and used a teenage girl's identity to steal millions in dues. The disconnect made me dizzy with black laughter inside. I refilled trays, staying invisible, until a hand clamped my upper arm hard enough to bruise. You have a lot of nerve. The voice was low, venomous. Julian Vance, Karen's fixer, the man who handled every lien and lawsuit for the board. I kept my server smile. Refill. Sir. He leaned in, breath minty and aggressive. Drop the act. MS. Lewis. I saw the security footage from the bank yesterday. You look just like your mother. And I know what you're carrying. I dropped the persona. Then you know what's in that letter. Tell Karen I'm coming. Tell her to smile while she still can. He squeezed harder. Walk away now, or you go to prison for extortion. Karen has the police chief on speed dial. These people worship her. I looked him dead in the eye. If she's so innocent, why is your hand shaking? He let go. I watched him hurry toward the head table. Harlow's voice in my earpiece. When moving up, hold position. I didn't. I moved closer to the stage. The lights dimmed. The jazz band stopped. A spotlight hit the podium. Karen Whitaker rose. The room gave her a standing ovation before she spoke a word. She waved humbly. Silver hair perfect. Pearls gleaming. She looked exactly like the woman who had driven me into the rain, only older, richer, and still convinced she was untouchable. Thank you, Karen began, voice warm and practiced, the same tone she used when she fined Mrs. Henderson $300 for pink flamingos. It has been the honor of my life to serve this beautiful community, to keep our lawns green, our fences uniform, our values intact. She paused for effect, eyes misty with fake emotion. Public service comes at a cost. Sometimes it costs you family. The crowd sighed sympathetically. I pressed the earpiece. She's rewriting history, I whispered. Harlow answered. Let her dig. Karen continued. Many of you know I lost my dearest friend, Evelyn, 30 years ago. Her death broke things in our little HOA family that could never be fixed. It cast a long shadow over her daughter, Avery. Avery was troubled. She could not handle the pressure of our standards. 16 years ago, she chose to leave us. I prayed every night that she found peace, even though she refused my help, refused my calls, refused my love. The room gave another collective sigh. A woman dabbed her eyes. I was shaking with cold rage. She had turned my exile into her long-suffering virtue. But we do not dwell on darkness, Karen said, voice strengthening. Before I close this chapter, there is one final ghost I must lay to rest. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a cream envelope, yellowed edges, identical to mine. I stopped breathing. I found this letter recently, she announced, holding it high, written by my late friend Evelyn just days before she passed. I never had the strength to read it publicly, until now. In light of certain rumors, I owe it to her memory. She opened it. She wrote this to Avery, Karen said, voice trembling theatrically. My dear daughter, I know you are angry. I know you have a darkness in you that frightens me. Please listen to Karen. She is only trying to save you from yourself. The words hit like physical blows. She was using my dead mother to gaslight an entire ballroom. I stepped out of the shadows. The silver tray in my hands hit the floor with a crash that silenced the room. Every head turned. Don't read that, I said, voice clear and carrying, because we both know the real letter is in my pocket. Karen froze. The fake smile faltered for half a second before slamming back into place. Julian Vance surged forward. Security, get this woman out. I was faster. I vaulted onto the stage, ignoring the stairs. Vance grabbed for me, but I twisted away. I yanked the microphone down. Feedback squealed. My mother never wrote that, I said into the mic, voice booming through the speakers. And you know it. The room gasped. Karen chuckled, condescending. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. This is exactly what I warned you about, the tragedy of a troubled daughter. I looked straight at the local news camera. My name is Avery Lewis. I'm the daughter you just claimed ran away. I am the daughter you drove to the Greyhound station on my 18th birthday with a trash bag because you said I humiliated the HOA. Security started running from the back. I turned to my sister Bella, standing near the stage, face pale. Her wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered, red wine splashing like blood. I reached into my vest and pulled out the real letter, yellowed, wax seal cracked. The crowd gasped again. No, Karen, I said, holding it high so the lights caught the faded ink. You're holding a prop. I am holding the confession. I leaned into the microphone. I'm here to read the letter you hid from everyone. The letter that proves you didn't just banish me. You used my name to steal $4 million in HOA dues. The ballroom went so quiet I could hear the air conditioning hum and Karen's shallow breathing. I held the letter with steady hands. My name is Evelyn Lewis, I read, voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. And if you are reading this, I have failed to protect you. Karen lunged. Don't you dare. I stepped back, keeping the mic stand between us. She continues. I have discovered that Karen Whitaker has been systematically altering the reserve fund records of the Whispering Pines HOA. She created 3 shell companies: Whispering Pines Landscaping, Keystone Property Management, Pinnacle Compliance Consultants. None of them exist. A gasp rippled through the front row. Those were the exact vendors the board had been paying for decades. The mayor went pale. He had signed the budgets. I kept reading. When I confronted her, she told me I was hysterical. She said if I went to the police, I would have an accident. She said she owns the sheriff. She said she would take my children away. Karen shouted to the crowd, arms wide. She was sick. The medication made her hallucinate. I ignored her. But the worst thing is her plan for Avery. She is waiting for her birthday. She told me She cannot use her name on the accounts until she is a legal adult. She needs a clean identity to anchor the offshore transfers. If she abandons you, Avery, if she sends you away on the very day you turn 18, it is not because you are bad. It is because from that second onward you are old enough to be her accomplice without your consent. I lowered the paper. October 14th. That was the day she drove me to the bus station. That was the day I turned 18. That was the day my signature appeared on a transfer form moving $50,000 into a ghost account. Karen screamed, "Liar! This is defamation. I will have you arrested." I pulled out my phone, already synced to the AV system. Behind Karen, the slideshow of her greatest moments, cutting ribbons at HOA picnics, shaking hands with developers, flickered and died. A massive QR code appeared, 10 feet tall. "Scan it," I commanded. Phones rose. The buzz started immediately. "Oh my God," someone shouted. "It's all here. The dates match. $6,000 a week for 10 years, another voice said. Karen's face turned purple. "You hacked the system. That is a federal crime." I smiled coldly. "I didn't hack anything. I just opened the box you forgot to burn." Julian Vance jumped onto the stage and tried to wrench the mic away. I leaned in so the struggle was audible. "If you touch me again, I will tell them about page 402 of the dossier. Your signature on the incorporation papers for Whispering Pines Landscaping. You aren't just her lawyer. You're her co-conspirator." Vance's hand went slack. He stepped back, muttering, "I'm just legal counsel." Karen was alone now. The stage felt huge and she looked tiny. Then Bella stepped forward, voice shaking. "Dad, Karen, tell them it isn't true." Karen snapped. "Shut up, Bella. Don't be stupid. She is manipulating you." Bella recoiled as if slapped. "You made me sign it. Last week in the green room. You said it was for catering liability. You said it was for the flowers. But I saw the bank name, Sovereign Keystone. Cayman Islands." I froze. "Bella, what was the amount?" She looked at the audience. Desperate. It was the total remaining balance. She was cashing out tonight. I shouted into the mic. "Harlow." She executed the transfer. She used Bella to sign the release 10 minutes ago. The money is moving. We have her. Harlow's voice roared in my ear. "Breaching now. Get down. Avery." Karen's face twisted in pure disgust as she looked at Bella. "You stupid girl. You ruined everything." Then she ran, sprinting toward the rear service exit like the fugitive she was. At that exact second, the double doors exploded open. Federal agents. Everybody stay down. 12 agents in tactical gear poured in, weapons lowered. The ballroom erupted, socialites diving under tables, waiters dropping trays, phones filming. I ran after Karen. She reached the velvet curtains and slammed into the emergency exit. It was locked. She had locked it herself earlier to keep staff out. A perfect detail of her own controlling nature that trapped her now. She spun, back against the door. I stopped 10 feet away. "It's over. Karen, the accounts are frozen." Harlow was monitoring the wire. "You didn't move the money. You just signed your confession." She stared at me, stripped of every mask. The benevolent HOA president was gone. The grieving friend was gone. All that remained was a small, greedy woman in an expensive suit. The side doors burst open. Agent Harlow and her team swarmed the stage. "Karen Whitaker, you are under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, and aggravated identity theft." Karen tried one last performance. She clutched her chest and gasped. "My heart, she is killing me." The crowd surged forward in sympathy. But I raised my phone again. "Stop. Listen to the timestamps." The projector switched to a waveform analysis. She played you a remix. The recording is spliced from 4 different calls. Look at the color blocks. Red is 2010. Blue is last week. The silence in between is where she cut out her own threats. I hit play on the real conversation. My younger voice, I work double shifts. I earn that money. Karen's cold sneer. If you try to leave, I will destroy you. I will burn your reputation to the ground. Yet it was obvious. The room fell silent. The heart attack act vanished instantly. Karen's face went gray. She tried to run again, but the agents were faster. Handcuffs ratcheted shut with a metallic sound that echoed like a gavel. Harlow held up a USB drive in an evidence bag. We have the original Tape Your Wife, made in 1994. Forensic voice match. We have you threatening to kill Evelyn if she exposed the accounts. The crowd gasped in horror. The mention of my murdered mother, the woman they had all loved, was the final blow. Harlow turned to the room. As of 5 minutes ago, the Department of Justice has frozen the Cayman account. Karen Whitaker is going to prison broke. She looked at me and gave the smallest nod. Then she read Karen her rights while the agents dragged her toward the exit. The path became a gauntlet of rejection. Men who had shaken her hand an hour ago pulled their jackets tight. Women turned their backs. The pillar of the community was now just a contagion. Bella stepped forward. Mascara streaked, but voice steady. She lied to me too. I will testify. Everything she said in the green room. That sealed it. Guilty mind. Intent. I handed Harlow the original letter. Chain of custody. She took it carefully. We'll keep it safe. I kept a copy for myself. I needed it on the days the doubt crept in. Karen twisted one last time as they dragged her out. She locked eyes with me and hissed. You think you won? Check your trunk. I didn't flinch. I knew it was empty. Her final phantom threat. I walked off the stage, past overturned tables and spilled wine, past Julian Vance, sitting with his head in his hands, waiting for his own warrant. I pushed open the heavy oak doors and stepped into the cold night air. The wind stung my cheeks. It felt clean. I sat in my car and looked at the copy of the letter on the passenger seat. The heavy stone of 16 years lifted. In its place was quiet emptiness, but also freedom. The monster was caged. My mother could rest. I started the engine. The heater blew warm air over my hands. Goodbye, Karen, I whispered to the rearview mirror. I put the car in gear and drove away from the lights of Whispering Pines, heading toward the highway, toward a life that finally belonged only to me. Thank you for listening to this story. I would love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop your city or country in the comments. If this HOA Karen takedown gave you the satisfaction it gave me, smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, where another entitled neighbor gets exactly what she deserves.